What's going on, YouTube? This is Luke with Endless Entrepreneurs coming to you guys with another video. Today's topic is going to be picking the right eBay business model for whatever it is, whatever venture you have, and picking the model that's right for you. I've had a ton of questions lately from viewers over the last couple weeks of, hey, can you do a video on how you picked your model, what your model is, kind of what your philosophy is behind it. Can you explain how we should go about analyzing and picking a model? And so I thought this is a great time. It's Friday night. Been listening all night and just figured I'd take a break and do this. I've been kind of brainstorming how I wanted to present it, and so I put together a spreadsheet that hopefully will be helpful. If you're new to my channel, I am a full-time corporate finance analyst, and I build my business in my spare time. Pretty seriously, I mainly sell men's clothing with a little bit of women's, and so I love spreadsheets. I love modeling things out. I mean, it's just how I think. It's easier for me to think that way. It's easier for me to plan and to develop my business strategy that way. So hopefully tonight's video will be helpful to you. I will do some Q&A at the end for sure. I'm going to check the chat here in a minute, but I'm going to get all the content up front, give kind of my thoughts and opinions behind it. Please keep in mind, disclaimer, right, that my goal for this video is to show you options because everyone's got to pick a business model that fits for them. And my hope is to show you kind of the pillars that should define what one is right for you. So we're definitely going to have to leave out some factors, but we're going to model it as close as we can to help you and guide you in your decision making. So let me just jump over to the chat here. Hey, Resell, Traffickers, we got Jennifer's here, we got Thrilla, Betty, and Christina. Hi, guys. So I'm just going to jump right in and get to the content, and then we will do some Q&A afterwards. So let me share my screen real quick with you guys here. All right, so true to form, here is a spreadsheet for you guys, and I want to walk through a couple things. So before I start, how I modeled this and how I viewed this is I picked 3 models, all based off the average sell price that you would achieve as a seller. So because that is one of the big building blocks that's going to determine basically what one is right for you. And so for this case, I picked what I define as a lower average sell price of $15 right here. I picked one that I modeled as like kind of medium, middle of the road as $25. And then I picked one with a little higher of $40. Now, keep in mind, if you're selling, depending on the niche you're selling in, these could be way different, right? If you're selling new in-box electronics, this could be a wide range of things, right? Or a lot higher sell prices. I kind of modeled this around clothing just because that's what I'm most familiar with. I know there's a lot of clothing sellers who follow me, so I kind of modeled it around there. And I know there's a lot of other sellers who have different models that fit here. So I was hoping this would be more relatable, and so I tried to keep it in that category. So I want to cover a couple assumptions here. Now, the first is that we're going to model this whole thing off after trying to sell $5,000 gross, so $5,000 in sales on eBay. And I'm just going to, again, I'm going to stay with clothing, but you can apply this principle to any other niche. And we're going to assume that we are averaging about a 50% net. So we're not going to dive into like cost of goods, the cost of acquisition and things like that. We're going to assume that you know your numbers enough that if I can buy it for 5 and sell it for 15, I'm going to make, what X after all fees and stuff. So I'm going to leave that equation out of here, and I can do a separate video addressing that as follow-up if people want that kind of that walk to net profit. But this is the assumptions up top here, is that we're going to sell 5,000 in the month, and we are going to assume that no matter what, if we sell 5,000, we're going to make $2,500 on that. Which I think is a goal that a lot of people have, especially as part-time sellers or even full-time sellers, right? Is that net profit of $2,500 or the gross goal of $5,000 a month. Like I think that's a pretty achievable goal and one that a lot of people want to do. Now, here's the other things that we don't talk about as much, and I think are really important. And I say we, I mean me, and kind of some of the people I talked in reselling about. And like when we talk about different things, a lot of times we leave off some of these factors, and they're really important. And the 3 that I made assumptions here about are, we're going to assume that we can source about 15 items an hour. Now, this could be high or low depending on your expertise and how quickly or fast you can canvas a store, all those things. But I had to take a baseline and assume something. So I assumed about 15 items. Today at lunch, I sourced 21 items in 35 minutes. So, so it just depends. So 15 on average. I'm also assuming that you can list from start to finish. That means, prep, pictures, measurements, full listing. You can do 10 per hour. and we're going to, which I think is very realistic. And then we're going to assume that you can do that shipping, because you're the back end of the business, you got to factor in the shipping time. Oops, I have a typo here. It says items shippered. In any case, so that you can do 30 an hour, which I'm not sure if that's high or low. I think that's kind of high for me, but I've heard a lot of people say that that's like they could do that many. So I didn't want to discount that because I've heard that. I think I just slow at shipping and maybe my process is less efficient, but we're going to go with that for the purpose of this model. So what I did here is I wanted to show you guys kind of the hours required per month if you wanted to achieve this 5,000. So let's start with the lower ASP one, so 15, which I think is, there's a lot of models that work with this, right? Is at $15 when you're buying for $1 or $2 and flipping to 15, it's a decent profit margin. And so this model might fit with whatever sourcing you have available to you, and all those factors. But basically, when it comes down to the numbers, if you were going to have an average sell price of $15, you need to sell 333 items per month to have $5,000 in gross sales. What that breaks down to, and this is the part that I think is really important when you're trying to decide for you what is the best business model, is how many hours do you have to allocate, right? If you're a part-time seller, do you have 67 hours in a month to allocate to your business? And if you do, then it's achievable, right? And so, just simply that breaks down to about 16.5-ish hours a week. So if you have that in the week, this is achievable for you if you have the right systems. And, it might take a while to scale to that, but that was what you'd have to sell. Now, here's the factor that I couldn't really model, but you have to consider. In order to sell 333 items per month, you probably have to have a lot more listed actively to sell 333. Right? And so that's, sell through is something I didn't really model here. I just want to more model the time to sell, like the time to source and list the amount of inventory you need to sell that is right here. Now, for me, for instance, I have almost 2,000 items actively listed, and I sell about 240 items per month. So keep that in mind, right? That if you want to get to this many sold here, you might need 1,500 active items, 1,000 active items, or you might need less because it's lower average sell price. Your items might flip faster. So there's a lot of factors there. But in general, by the numbers, the hours that you would need to put in to sustain this, so let's just assume that you could sell 333 a month. You would need to put in 67 hours a month minimum if you could have these efficiencies up here to do that at $15. That's scenario one. Scenario two, we slide over here. If you raise your average sell price to 25, and so that means maybe you're sourcing some different items, some different types of items, some items that sell, maybe they sell a little better, a little higher, but maybe they take a little longer to sell, right? That's kind of the catch, or kind of the opportunity cost as you scale up there. But let's just assume you have $25 as average sell price. You cut down to only needing to sell 200 per month to make that same $5,000. And again, we're assuming that same net profit regardless. So that means you would need 40 hours in the month, which is about 10 hours per week. And then, as we scale over here, looking at the higher average sell price model, if you had $40, you'd only have to sell 125 items to hit that 5,000. It'll only take you 25 hours to sustain it. So assuming, and I guess the other assumption I really should have put in this top was assuming you have the inventory already built up in your store to sell X amount of items per month. To maintain and to achieve this would be the hours you need to put in at that average sell price to sustain that. Now, you might have more hours and you could scale it bigger. You might have less hours. You have to scale down. But I think the reason why I wanted to model this out is a lot of the questions like, well, what should I do? And I think the answer is it always depends. And so for me, let me use my business example. I'm right around this $25 average sale price right now. It's been bouncing between like 24 and 26. I was heading towards 28 till I did a bulk buy, and I've been selling them lower because my cost was lower. So, that is another factor. But let's just say, for instance, I'm at like that 25 mark. That works well for me because I only have time in my month to source, list, and sell about 240 items. I guess I list about 350 to 450-ish a month. But I only have enough capacity to like pack and ship and handle all of the back end stuff and the hours and everything that comes into it for about 240, 250 items a month. Now I'm starting to stretch that, but that's the amount of hours I have in me to do. Now, the other thing I'll say to this is I'm sourcing more than 200 items per month. So I actually would probably have to double this hour. So for me, for instance, it's more like 53 hours a month, source 400 items if I sold 200, et cetera, et cetera. I spend a lot more time in that in my business because I try to list a heck of a lot more than I sell because I'm trying to grow. But I think really coming back to the point of why I wanted to model this out, and this is a very like crude model, is it's not super elaborate, and there's a lot of assumptions that play into here. There's not a one size fits all answer, but I think it's a really good guideline to look and say, all right, if I have 10 hours only per week to invest in my eBay business, I might want to focus more over here, right? That 25 to 40 area, and learn what sells in this area and spend my time educating myself because I only have a limited amount of time to put in my business. Whereas if time is your unlimited resource and you have tons of time, right, and maybe lower capital, this might be the better model for you because you can spend the extra hours, you can source and sell at a lower price and maybe a little faster, so you're turning capital and getting more capital in your business quicker. This might be the best model, or somewhere in between. And I think that you just have to look at the hours you have to put in, look at the capital you have to invest, and then decide what works best for me, because there is no perfect model. Like, there's no model that's like the right one. And actually I have this mislabeled too, model 1. This should be model 3. But like, I feel like people get too caught up on what's the best one, which one should I do? And it's like, no, what one's right for you? That's the question I think everyone should ask themselves, is what one is right for you in your eBay business and what you want to achieve, what you want to accomplish, whatever your goals happen to be. So hopefully this makes sense to everyone. I just wanted to be, hopefully try to simplify the equation, and we can model this out way more in detail, but I think this at least gives everyone a guiding point of like how to assess what they want to do. And hopefully this was helpful. So let me stop sharing and jump over to the chat and see what kind of comments we got going on. All right. How's it going, everyone? Looks like we got 40 watching live. Yeah, hey, Jonathan, thanks for catching me live. Appreciate you stopping in. Hey, Anthony, we got Lynn and Betty. So I'll take some questions now if you guys want. If you don't have questions, great. Maybe I explained it so well there's no questions, but would love to hear you guys' feedback. I don't know if anyone, even just comment below like what models you have. For me, as I continue to be part-time and grow my business part-time because I'm working full-time, I'm always trying to challenge the upper end of my average sell price because I want to keep scaling my time, right? I can't invest more hours in. So the best thing I can do is try to get my average sell price up so that I'm more profitable long-term. So I'm making more money long-term. So that's just kind of my goal as I look at my business. I don't know what everyone else's model is and what they're doing, but would love to hear about it. And Jennifer says she's working on her death pile, motivated to eliminate so you can go out sourcing. That's awesome, Jennifer. It was awesome to have you on the Reseller Rehab show earlier this week on Jason's channel. It was great. I know I had a blast. Hey, Thrill, thanks for stopping in. Looks like either my chat's broke or we don't have questions, which is actually pretty good. And I'll take any questions, guys. It doesn't have to be related to this business model. It can be just some live Q&A back and forth. I'm going to get to bed here in like the next 15 minutes because I'm going to be up early sourcing. I'm pretty excited to get started this weekend. But let me see. All right, guys. Well, I'm not seeing any questions, so that makes my life easier. I think that I get to bed a little earlier here. If anyone has any follow-up questions, please feel free. You can send to my Instagram or on YouTube, leave in the comments below. Oh, Christina does have a question I see real quick here. How would you calculate profit on items that you have from your home? Is it a zero cost? Yeah, Christina. So if you're selling stuff from your home, you got to look at it as it's already a sunk cost, right? You didn't buy it originally for your business. You bought it as a personal consumer item. And so if you pull it, all of a sudden now you're going to resell it. It was something you've used, you bought for a different purpose. It wasn't bought for your business and you resell it. It would be a zero cost item. Because at least that's how I view it. You always can check with your CPA just to be sure, but that's how I always encourage everyone to start too. Like if you're just thinking about getting started on eBay, you're not really sure, like start selling stuff around your house just to get a feel for it, start to figure out how the process works, the customer service, how it works, the listing items, shipping them, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, Betty, I totally agree. It depends on the inventory we can find. I think, your model depends on the hours, the cost you can buy at, and what types of items you can find, right? Not everyone can find $25 and $40 average sale price items. It just depends where you live. But he said, do you have any suggestions on how to find a CPA with limited resources? Oh, that's a really good question, Betty. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say I pay a premium for my CPA. I think I pay somewhere in the middle of the road. I would suggest that's well money spent on a CPA regardless, but I would just start asking stuff for referrals from some small business owners maybe that you might know in your area and see if you can find some positive referrals. That would probably be the best way to go. You also, if you can find someone kind of early on in building their practice, that's actually what I did. I found someone who had just started to build their CPA firm. And so I got in early and his rates were really low. And that it was nice to kind of lock in at that. So that might be helpful for you as well. But sorry, I wish I had better advice for you than that, Betty. Resale Trafficker said, what brand would you say sells best for you? There's so many brands. Ones that come to mind are like Rock Revival, Keaton, like Patagonia. I mean, there's a ton of them. Hey, Reggie, what's going on? There's a question here. Luke, do you use an app on your phone to calculate profit on an item? Hey, Barry. Barry, that's a great question. I don't. I pretty much break profit on an item down to a couple core blocks. So in my head, I look at first at the cost to buy it, right? So in my case, most of my items cost me about $4 to $5. And then I can tell if it's over a pound, I know it's going to cost me about $6 to ship. And if it's under a pound, it's going to cost me about $4 to ship on average. So I just start adding those costs up. And then if I think I can sell it for $25, you just back out your 13% in fees. And if you back out your 13% in fees, your shipping and your cost of goods sold, you know what your profit's going to be on the item. And so I just usually do that calculations on the spot. I would encourage you as you're kind of new and learning, and maybe you're not as quick, like if you're just not as comfortable or familiar with the numbers, just carry a calculator with you and little notes, and you can just do it right on the spot to make sure it's a profitable buy. Jonathan said, been watching a bunch of videos the past few months, going to post the limit of 10 items found around the house. Would you suggest looking at the solds and post the items with the highest sell rate? So Jonathan, a couple things there. I would post the things that give you the highest profit to give you capital to reinvest in more inventory. But if you have the limit, I guess that's what you're asking. So if you have a 10 item limit, yeah, I would want to sell the things that sell the fastest because I can't list more until they raise that. Joshua just asked, have you had much success with Tommy Bahama shorts? Mixed results. I used to have a lot of success with them, not so much anymore, like $18 to $20-ish usually on them, and they haven't really moved much for me. I also haven't found a lot of new ones. A lot of the ones I have up are very old inventory, and the photos aren't as good as they probably should be. So I'm not sure I can answer that completely of them being bad, but they definitely don't move as good as they used to. All right, guys. Any other questions here before we wrap up? Hopefully everyone's planning on sourcing a ton. I'm going to be sourcing in the morning tomorrow. I'm going to be knocking out the rest of some of those multi-quantity listings for my LL Bean stuff. Need to reclaim the garage completely. We got a bunch of guests coming in. And then I'm going to thrift more on Sunday and list more. I actually sold today. It was pretty cool. I sold another 10 pair of pants to the same buyer. I think of LL Bean pants. I sold 18 pair of LL Bean pants today. It's been crazy. Resale Trafficker said, if you buy, say, 50 shirts, do you divide your cost by 50 or track cost and profit per item? So I do average costing. So for me, I just take the total number of items I buy for the year and divide it by the total cost of those items, and I use that as my average cost of goods sold. That's one method you can use. The other method is to track each individual item and the cost you paid for it through the life cycle, and like do it in a spreadsheet or something like that. You can also do that. I just, for the size of my business and what I'm doing, average costing just works best for me. And Hall's Hangout, that's a great tip there, is checking the completeds, not the solds, because you can see the sell-through rate better. And that's very true, right? When you check the sold listings, you're only seeing the items that sold. When you check completed and sold, you get to see both. So you can see if 40 of that same item, only 10 of them sold, you know that it's roughly a 25% sell-through rate. So that's a great tip. Thanks for sharing that. Also, I don't know if anyone watched that haul video for earlier that I posted, but this was the coolest find. I just want to share. I'm pretty pumped about this. I haven't these starter jackets. I've been starting to find more and more around here, and they're in excellent shape. I mean, really, really good shape. Found an Eagles one the other day that was pretty awesome. Gonna list that tomorrow, and that's actually an interesting question too. Kind of going back to what Jonathan was asking, the order to list things. So I always sort and list my items by highest profit and type. So like I sort them in batches so that I can list them quicker, but I also try to sort them the highest value items because I want those up first to give the chance of the most profit and the highest sales. All right, guys, I think I'm going to jump off. It doesn't seem like there's too many questions, and I can get to sleep and get well rested for the weekend. Appreciate everyone stopping in. Appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like button for me if you don't mind on the way out. Hopefully this is helpful. And if you don't mind, drop in the comments what what model kind of works for you right now, what models you've tried, if you've had more than one model. It'd be interesting to hear. Like, I love talking to other sellers because everyone does it different, and everyone, is successful with their own model that works for them. So it's always super cool to hear and see. Easy Money just asked if I can make a video on how to use a label printer. I certainly can. I'm gonna have to really think about that because the one I have hooked up and configured, I've had for like 3.5 years. So I haven't actually done that in quite a while. But I can, maybe I'll reconfigure mine to my laptop or something and show you guys how I would do that. And just to ask specifically, when you say how to use a label printer, do you mean like how to hook it up and configure it, like that type of thing, or just like how to use it and interface it with eBay to print shipping labels? I mean, I guess I can do both regardless, but I'm not super techie, but I know how to configure labels and such like that. All right, guys, have an awesome night. I am pretty tired. I've tried to jump off a couple times here. It looks like questions are dried up. Have an awesome night, guys. Really, really appreciate you guys stopping in. Hit that like button. Good luck sourcing. I hope you guys find lots of awesome stuff this weekend. And have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for stopping in.